Hello everyone, this is Rick and welcome to Astral Club. Today's video is 10 strange and creepy things on the astral plane. I want to thank Bruno Majorana, who is one of our commenters and members on our site. He gave me the idea, so thanks a lot, Bruno. I appreciate it. Before we get started, I want to thank our 3 new supporters on Patreon. There's Tyler Dane, who is an Astral Scout, Zlax, who is an Astral Master, and Igor, or if you're a fan of the movie Young Frankenstein, Igor is an Astral Scout. Okay, so as the title probably gives it away, I'm going to talk about 10 different weird things that I've seen on the astral plane. And since we're sticking with the lower astral as the theme, they're all pretty much things that I've seen on the lower astral. Before I get started, I want to let you know that I consider my drive into work every day infinitely more dangerous than anything I've ever seen on the astral plane. So please put all this stuff in context. As I've always said, astral projection is among the safest things you'll ever experience. You'll see wondrous things. You'll see things that are a little bit ugly. You'll see things that might get you a little fearful. But it's all a part of the amazing experience of astral projection. Okay, let's get started. Number 1 on the list is astral shells. Anyone who's a fan of ghost stories knows that there's tales of the old woman in the lighthouse, or the lady of the lake, or some duchess who wanders a castle's halls. The one thing they all have in common is generally they're very old stories. They go back hundreds and hundreds of years. And anyone who sees these apparitions always reports the fact that they seem to be going through repetitive motions. In that these ghostly apparitions don't acknowledge anything new, don't acknowledge the human that's watching them. They're going through as if in a dream. They also tend to notice that the images are very indistinct. They don't have a lot of detail on them. They're just basic forms of a woman, let's say. These are astral shells. The physical body is mortal. We all know that. We live, up to 100 years maybe? Then we leave it behind. The astral body is not you. It is yet another body that your soul matrix, which is eternal, occupies. So at some point, it gets discarded. However, unlike the physical body, although if you want to compare the physical body to, like, say, the zombie myth, the astral shells can sometimes still be animate. If there was intense emotions or what have you in that being, and then the being leaves and the astral shell is still behind, it still has this energy. It's decaying, it's losing its detail, but it still has this energy. And it can go through these emotions. It can walk on the lake over and over again. It can walk through the halls holding a candle. But it is a shell. It's something that no longer has intelligence to it, but it still has this residual energy which creates movement. And you can see that on the lower astral. You see these little things just kind of wandering around. Next up is earthbound human spirits. And I think we're all pretty aware of these. These are souls that have left the physical plane. They've passed on. and for whatever reason, they remain on the lower astral. Many times it's because they are experiencing strong attachments to the physical still. They passed over quickly and they're still in shock, or they're very fearful, or they still have vendettas against people on Earth, and there's this hate that's holding them down, or they're attracted to lusts, to alcohol, to drugs, whatever that's still holding them down to the lower astral. And for those people, they can feel like they're almost alive. And if they really try hard, they can almost capture what it felt like to be high or drunk. And sometimes when you're in bars and there's a lot going on, people lose their minds and get in fights and they don't know why they did it. And I think it's sometimes because of the influence of these earthbound spirits that want to feel what it was like to get drunk and fight again, and they're influencing them once they're very inebriated. So that's a good reason not to get too out of control. You might be influenced by something you don't want to be influenced by. Number 3, guides. Guides are spirits who normally had lifetimes on Earth and got to a certain level, and now they've crossed over and they have decided to aid people who are still either on the physical plane still, but also those who are trapped in the earthbound existence. And their job is to try to shepherd them, either if they're on the physical, to help them make good decisions, or if they're on the lower astral and it's possible to help them realize the trap that they're in and help them to move on to a better place. Number 4, I call them leprechauns or little people. I have seen them from time to time. I recall one time I was just a teenager, and I just left my body and I was coming down the side of my parents' house. And there was this little guy who was kind of perched on one of the bushes. And without saying a word, he just jumped off the bush onto my shoulder. And I started, moving my shoulder, trying to brush him off. And eventually I was able to get him off. And I could tell he was very much put out because he wasn't used to being noticed, first of all. And I think he mistook me for just another human walking around that he could hitch a ride on. They're not negative in any way. They tend to be associated with areas that still have some nature to them. We used to have this 100-acre woods behind my house, so we had a little bit of exposure to that. But they're harmless as far as I know. I've never encountered any aggression. They just kind of treat us as like taxis. Next up is nature spirits. As you might expect, they also tend to dwell in areas where there is still relatively undisturbed nature. Now, there's less and less of that, of course, but they're still out there. They are intelligent, but their intelligence, maybe I'm being human-centric here, and I'm aware of that, but it seems to be of a lesser level of intelligence. They seem to be really totally concerned with just the natural world and shepherding the trees and the animals. So I don't really know too much more about them, to be honest with you. I've encountered them rarely, but when I did, it was really hard to communicate with them because they're very alien to humans, and they're also very suspicious of us. They're fearful of us, so trying to get close to them is very difficult, and you can imagine why they're a little fearful of us. Number 6 is a weird animal plant that I found in the deep sea in the lower astral. Now, if you've been listening to this channel for a long period of time, you know that going deep underwater for me is still a little fearful. But one time I dove in deep during the nighttime. There was no moon, it was pitch black. And I don't know why I did it now, but I think it was because I was out of control and I was rocketing down to Earth and I was moving so quickly, that's it, that I wasn't able to stop. So I penetrated deep into the ocean. I didn't see anything at first, but then I noticed this enormous, kind of whitish, glowing, huge tulip. Imagine a huge tulip bulb, something like that. And I looked at it, and it was very attractive. It had a hypnotic quality to it, and I felt like it was calling to me. And I started moving towards it. Then something in the back of my head said, "You don't want to go to this thing." So I kind of broke the spell and got the heck out of there. I don't know anything more about it than that. And if anyone's ever experienced something like that, leave something in the comments. I'd like to know more myself. Okay, number 7 is shades or shadow people. Now, this is something that's widely reported in the lower astral. And there's a lot of folks who are afraid to astral project because they tried to do so and they saw these creatures. The one thing I know about them is they feed on fear. I don't know their origin. They're not human spirits, I can tell you that. They have some sort of an elemental energy to them. It's not evil in the conventional way we think of it. I wish I could describe it better. But they are attracted to fear. They feed off of the emanations of fear. When I finally figured that out, the next time I saw one, and I think it was even in my bedroom, I just looked at it and said, "How's it going? I'll be back in a bit." And then I took off. And I had no fear towards it. When I came back, it wasn't there, and I've never seen it again. I think it's just because it figured out that it wasn't going to get fed off of fear from me. So fear is what they look for, so don't give it to them. Number 8, the spirits of animals, pets. I haven't really seen a lot of wild animal spirits, but I have seen cats and dogs. I think I mentioned once that my old childhood dog still hangs around my parents' house. Now, her astral body has gotten very ragged. It has definitely started to degrade, but she still hangs out. And my mother even mentioned once that she still senses her around when it's time to go to bed because my dad used to work at nights, and so my mom would sleep sometimes on a couch, and the dog would sleep right with her. So she still kind of senses her presence. When I saw her, I went over to her and I started petting her, and at first she was very unused to this type of attention, but then she was very enthusiastic because obviously she hadn't been seen in a long time. But I've seen cats, I've seen dogs. I think what happens is the interaction between humans and pets, like cats and dogs. Ideally, what happens is we grow as souls, humans, by our interactions with them. And they also grow through interactions with us. And of course, that's the ideal version. Unfortunately, there's people out there who are awful individuals who are cruel to pets, and then that's a negative situation. But luckily, I think the positive end of things is much more common. So yeah, you will occasionally see them out there, dogs and cats especially. Number 9 is the astral wind. This is on every plane of the astral, and you'll be somewhere doing it, whatever it is you're doing, and suddenly this great wind will come and just take you away somewhere else. I have no idea whether it's some sort of natural phenomena or whether there's some intelligence to it. But I know it's irresistible when it happens. And I know other people have reported the astral winds as well. And certainly, if you have, you can always leave it in the comment section. Lastly, is something that I call the astral skylight harvester. This is a very intriguing phenomena. I've seen it a couple of times when I've been in the lower astral. It's normally in an area where there's a lot of earthbound spirits who are caught up in their hates and their fear and lusts and drug use, and they're acting out some of the things they used to do, they enjoyed when they were physical beings. And keep in mind that the atmosphere is always very thick. It's gray and black, altogether very, very, very depressing. The area of it, the emotion of it, always reminds me probably what Berlin must have been like in 1945 when the Allies had bombed it back to the Stone Age. And there was just nothing but the sense of hopelessness and every negative emotion you can think of. And suddenly out of nowhere, there will come this light in the sky, and it scatters all the folks in the lower astral. Most of the folks go scattering away, trying to hide wherever they can. And go inside a building, crawl, underneath a car, whatever it is they have to do because they fear this light. But what I've seen is that there's always a few people who just stand there and the light goes over them and they look up and then they disappear. So I call it the skylight harvester because I believe it's taking these people away from this awful place because perhaps they're ready. It doesn't try to seek out, as far as I can tell, the ones that are hiding though. I remember one time I was watching it and I didn't know what to do. I didn't feel I needed to hide or anything. So I stood out there and then it came over me and it hovered for a long period of time, like it was thinking something over. And I just kind of stood there looking up. I felt some sort of intelligence, but it was beyond my ability to understand. So I just stood there wondering what was going to happen. And then it blinked once or twice, and then it just continued on its way. I guess perhaps it realized that I was another category. I wasn't ready to go to wherever it is it was taking the other people yet. But that was something that I found very, very interesting. And I don't know that I've seen it really anywhere else in any other books. Maybe it's out there somewhere. Maybe somebody else has seen it. I'd be surprised if somebody else hasn't. But at any rate, that was number 10. So those were 10 of the strange and creepy things that I've seen on the astral plane. And once again, please keep in mind that, as I said before, your everyday life out in the physical is infinitely more dangerous than anything you're going to find on the astral plane. And the best thing you can do to make yourself a better astral projector or to begin astral projecting is to inform yourself, because knowledge eliminates fear. Because fear is an emotion that generally happens because of A, hopelessness, or B, ignorance. So if you can feel you're empowered and if you can have the knowledge you need, then there's no need to result to that whole animal fear situation. Okay, well, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the old thumbs up, share it with those of like minds. Please leave your comments and questions. They're always great. And if you'd like to join those other great people who have decided to become supporters of Astral Club on Patreon, The link will be in the description. As always, I'm Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.